The boat was sailing slowly, but in the right direction. The cold wind pierced my thin body through and through. Darkness all around, no one around. No, I'm not alone. My old friend. The moon lights the way through the old forest. The treetops are so strong that it seems they will stand for many more thousand years. Old age is a strange word. It replaces maturity. Someone falls apart. Someone looks fresh and full of strength. I don't feel old, although my head is covered with wise gray hair. I see a distant point on the horizon. It is slowly approaching. I will wait until the boat is very close. It could be empty. It could carry a carefree wandering fisherman. Perhaps there was wine in it or empty fishing nets. Nothing. Nothing. I know your secret. Decrepit wooden old woman. You keep inside you someone younger and more beautiful than you. Is she dead? No, she is sleeping. Meanwhile, the current brought the boat very close. I see her, I see the girl. Her sleep is sweet and serene. When we sleep, we are so beautiful. I don't know who this girl is and how she got here. I will call her Sandra. Why Sandra? I don't know, I like it. This name reminds me of a flawless emerald, which is so beautiful when my friend the moon smiles. Her eyelids are closed. They hide beautiful green eyes. The boat continues on its way. Nothing can block the road. I look into the distance, admiring the grace of the night, the dog-like obedience of the old woman who carries Sandra to meet death. Or maybe not death, maybe a new life. Sandra was awakened by a dull blow. The boat was washed up on the shore. Her head ached terribly. Her eyes slowly opened. The bright sun painfully blinded them. Where is she? Where is she? How did she get here? What happened to her? But the main question tormented my heart most of all. Who is she? Sandra did not remember anything, neither her name, nor her home, nor her parents. A frightening emptiness pierced her head. Fear paralyzed her small, almost childish body. She could not stand up right away. Her muscles did not want to obey. The girl saw a sandy shore, completely overgrown with grass, an old boat that had brought her here, a road leading into the distance, dividing the forest into two, surprisingly even parts. Tears of fear and despair filled Sandra. Where was she? Where were her mom and dad? And did she have them? What should a child or a teenager do if they found themselves alone in an unknown place? But the girl held on, surprisingly well. Her bare foot stepped uncertainly onto the rocky road. One more step, good. Forward, my dear. She did not remember or did not notice how the road ended so quickly and unexpectedly, like the life of a chick that has fallen from the nest, not yet able to fly. Sandra didn't notice how she crossed the forest, fields, sheep bleating loudly, a shepherd sleeping peacefully in the shade of a mighty oak. The road led to a city or a village. The girl crossed an open gate, several streets. It was unbearably hot outside. Beads of sweat ran down her face. The houses looked strange. There was something African-Arabic about them. Flat roofs, walls made of sand and clay blocks. The hot sun, asphalt and sand burning her feet. Maybe Sandra had ended up in another country. Could this be Africa or Afghanistan? Were there Africans or Arabs around? Yes, there were both. And there were also whites, Chinese, Latin Americans, Hawaiians. The girl would not have been surprised if she had met a couple of Eskimos. How strange! When she left the boat, there was a dense forest along the road. There were firs and pine trees. And in the city there were palm trees and, again, firs and pine trees. Could this be Brazil or some other country that could combine tropical and moderate climates? Could this be Russia? Sandra had heard that somewhere in the Siberian taiga there was an area that combined the tropics and temperate. The girl knew the school curriculum well, was one of the best in the class. For her 16 years, Sandra knew more than many of her peers, perhaps more than some adults. Since childhood, she knew English and French, and of course her native Spanish. Amnesia is a strange thing. You don't know who you are or where you're from, but your former baggage of knowledge remains unchanged. After a couple of hours of meaningless wandering through the city streets, Sandra, exhausted from hunger and grief, couldn't carry her legs any longer. She sat down uncertainly on a bench in the shade of a tree. A pleasant chill ran through her sweaty body. Her eyelids grew heavy until they completely hid her beautiful green eyes. Sleep came quickly. She dreamed of her home, which she couldn't remember, only dark shadows, like a pencil sketch, drawn by someone's clumsy hand. Danger. Do you feel fear? Do you feel death, ready to swallow you? Wake up, Sandra. She opened her eyes. Her forehead felt something cold and scary. A shotgun. It was held by a strong black, tattooed hand. Sandra looked up and saw a strong, tattooed African sitting on a motorcycle. Black wrestling singlet, military boots and trousers, military tags on his neck. His whole appearance screamed of belonging to the army. Coincidental Faras, Nabano. The stranger suddenly spoke in a strong, muffled voice. The girl was unfamiliar with this language. Do you speak English? Sandra squeaked uncertainly. Me repeati parolu. Coincidental Faras, Nabano. Suddenly the African's voice rang out in her head. What are you doing here, girl? She looked into his eyes in surprise. They were filled with rage. His face remained impassive. His lips were tightly pressed together. I'm lost. The girl tried to explain. Quién estés via normal? I don't know. I don't remember. Quién estés via normal? The stranger pressed the muzzle of the shotgun harder against Sandra's forehead. Sandra, the girl barely audibly uttered. The stranger put the shotgun behind his back. A strong blow to the head knocked the girl off her feet. The African carelessly threw her tiny body onto the seat. The engine roared like crazy. The motorcycle rushed towards the wind, raising columns of sand and dust. A lot of graduates had gathered in the stuffy corridor. Everyone was trying to finish this idiotic exam as quickly as possible. The girl was sitting on the floor far away from everyone. She looked unperturbed, calm on her face, and beautiful green eyes. Sometimes the past suddenly makes itself known. 3 years had flown by. Sandra remembered her first day in this world. The boat, the African vigilante, the motorcycle. She barely remembered her home world, her planet. This planet, or dimension, was similar to Earth in many ways, but at the same time different. Different rules reigned here. It was a world that held many unknowns. A world where Christianity was intertwined with paganism. A world where big guys on motorcycles shot at civilians. A world where half humans, half animals live. A world where the Arabs captured France. A world where goddesses give birth to children for the king. The world consisted of 5 countries. Lando de la Esperanto, land of Esperanto, or literally land of hope. The capital of which was the city of Zamenhof. New Germany, the capital, New Berlin. The Union of British Nations, in which all the English-speaking population of this world lived, with the capital London, Washington. China, with Beijing, where all the Asians of the dimension lived. The Arab Kingdom, with the capital Abu Dhabi. Arab France, with Paris. The Arab population of France displaced the native French. The French founded a reservation in the west of Lando de la Esperanto. The capital is Marseille. The world also contained 2 peoples who were never able to formalize their statehood. The northern tribe, children of the goddess of the 4 elements, and the eastern tribe, children of the wolf goddess. The rest of the world is a lifeless desert. The door opened. A tall man in a suit called the next name. Sandra Eleno, 1934. The room was dimly lit. The examination committee looked at Sandra carefully. This was the penultimate final exam. Behind her were mathematics, Esperanto, French, geography, biology, military art. This time she had to take history. The history of her country, Lando de la Esperanto. That day, 3 years ago, a lynch mob took the girl to the police. From there, by court order, She was sent to an orphanage in one of the small towns of the province of Urbo della Forto. Urbo della Forto, City of Strength. After studying there for some time, the teachers noticed the girl's unrivaled high intellect. She was sent to the Prince of Lion Gymnasium in the city of Urbo della Sago. Urbo della Saggio, City of Wisdom. Where are you going to go? The muffled, smoke-filled voice of an old woman from the committee rang out. To the French department. Prince Dominic Academy in Urbo della Sago. Tell us about the administrative and state structure of our great country. Lando della Esperanto consists of 5 provinces. Zamenhof, Urbo della Sago, the French Reservation, Urbo della Forto and New Lynch. Urbo della Sago was founded by Prince Dominic, the son of the king and the goddess of wisdom. He was the first of the royal family to deny his divine origin. The prince turned the city into a cultural center, a center for the development of science and education. He was the first to attempt to study the abilities granted by the gods. Subsequently, Prince Dominic, having studied the history and customs of other worlds, brought Christianity to our lands. The French Reservation was founded by refugees from France, which was filled with Arabs. New Lynch and Urbo della Forto were founded by Laura, the goddess of war and the first wife of the king. Their children were so harsh and thirsty for war and murder that the king forbade the lynch mob to participate in the political life of the state. The lynch mob inhabits these 2 provinces. The lynch mob in New Lynch is our police. They also patrol the cities of the provinces, small villages, forests, fields. When a lynch mob finds an offender, he gives him a choice, either death or New Lynch. As a rule, they choose death. Urbo della Sago is our army. The entire province is a large military unit, with the exception of several small towns where the civilian population lives. Zamenhof is the capital of the state, the most beautiful city in the country. It is the residence of the king. The city was founded by the king himself. What are the state languages? Esperanto and French. Which peoples do not have their own statehood, and what languages do they speak? The Northern and Eastern tribe. The Northern tribe speaks a mixture of German and the indigenous language, which has no writing. The beastmen of the Eastern tribe speak the language of the country they live in. The wild ones speak their animal language. The last and most important question. Tell the biography of the king. The supreme god Sky married the goddess Earth. From this marriage the prophet, the god of the past and the future, was born. Sky called guests, and each of the gods gifted the child with a part of their power. He was gifted by fire, water, air, earth. The lower gods also gifted him hypnosis, telepathy, telekinesis, and the wolf goddess. The prophet grew up and began to gain power, in addition to possessing all the powers of the gods. He could take any form and travel between worlds. Soon the gods realized that the prophet was more powerful than them all. Sky offered his son to take his throne. The prophet had a kind heart. He did not strive for power. Soon he left the sky and came down to earth. He wandered among people until he fell in love with a beautiful girl. She gave birth to his son Wilhelm. The prophet lived with his family in the form of a man in New Germany. War broke out. Wilhelm was not the prophet's only child. The prophet, the son of heaven and earth, the god of the past and the future, was the father of 2 tribes. In the north, the goddess of the 4 elements protected her children. In the east, the wolf goddess and her half-humans, half-animals. His children tore each other apart, and the prophet went to pacify his children. The war lasted for 300 long years. Wilhelm grew up without a father. From childhood, he knew that he was not like other children. He had a power that frightened him. The boy could possess the power of the 4 elements. He could hypnotize, read minds, move objects at a distance, and could transform into any animal at will. When Wilhelm grew up, he left his country and settled in the desert. After many years of hermitage, he founded a village. which was visited by people from other countries. The village became a city, and new cities kept appearing. This is how the country of Lando de la Esperanto appeared. Wilhelm became its king. He knew Esperanto well, and this language united all people speaking different languages. He took the nickname Fenestro, which means window in Esperanto. It symbolizes a window to a new life. Wilhelm Fenestro, the son of the prophet, inherited the immortality of the gods. He has been our king for 10,000 years. The commission deliberated for a while and gave a verdict. Excellent. Raymond squeezed the gas handle tighter and tighter. The police motorcycle was rapidly approaching the city. He did not want to miss the fun. The siren would soon sound. Bullets would fly, pleas for mercy, tears, groans, screams. He liked to cause pain. But despite his stern appearance, Raymond was less bloodthirsty than his brothers. The descendants of the goddess of war often tortured their victims, played with them. They would skin them alive or cut off their legs to watch the poor fellow struggle and howl in pain. Raymond would put a bullet in their head. It was as if opposing principles were fighting inside him. On the one hand, he strove for justice and mercy. On the other, he wanted cruelty, murder, the bodies of his fallen enemies. Raymond was a purebred vigilante. He was not one of those who were suddenly found to have green blood. This blood had been flowing in his veins since birth. He was born and raised in New Lynch. From childhood, he was brought up in Spartan conditions, brought up as a warrior. He graduated from the School of Courage, served in Urbo de la Forto, participated in the Arab-French War. Raymond was a mulatto. His father, a 2-meter African, was a general leading the army to meet the Arabs. Raymond saw from afar the back of his father, running in the front ranks, shouting at the top of his lungs a call for victory. And we won. This battle went down in history. The Arabs ran away in cowardice, as if they had seen a pack of wild dogs. But unfortunately, the lynch mobs were not the only wild dogs. During another raid into the eastern lands, the group led by Raymond's father was ambushed. There were more of them than usual. The beastmen tore the lynch mobs apart. Raymond cried for the first and last time. His stern heart did not accept tears, even in childhood. When he beaten half to death, and other boys were thrown into a pit with rotting corpses. After killing her father, she discovered a talent for there were also those. The following lines were floating in Raymond's head. 30% a red marker population of Lando de la Esperanto. The descendants of the king and earthly women. Yellow royal blood allowed them to use only one of the abilities described above. Regulations. Many did not even suspect their origin. Right. Only the maturity test revealed the presence of turquoise or green blood. To the former subsequently occupied high positions in various fields. The latter went to defend the state and held the position of a military trying to give a scientific what use is a psychiatrist to these psychos? And finally, nothing can refute the stagnant dogmas of paganism. The motorcycle at the moment, the city line. He was a hermit studying the properties of some blood. New Lynch was stood on a small hill surrounded by looking around. 70 kilometers to the north stretches the border of the urban teachers. The Union of British peoples. They were united by one word. On the territory of the informal state of one reason or insomnia tormented the priest. Statistically, the probability of breaking the law is higher than dying in an accident. The wise goddess did not consider it her duty to raise her safest country in the world. What does she look like? The laws in the country are so young and beautiful that there are almost no violators left. Naked girls prohibited littering in the street. They invited him to share a dance talking loud with them. As soon as a violation is detected, vigilantes take over for any violation over his lips. The sentence through his sleep. The prince felt a piercing gaze on himself. Death he opened his eyes. In the first case, naked girls they would put a bullet in the forehead. Their bodies were covered in tattoos. Not everyone is as merciful. You came here in vain. You do not belong here. The criminal must live in this city. This is not your place on our earth. He is provided with a job, human, housing, insurance, and the battle began. Very few lived to the end. Fire as soon as the offender chooses, one of the survivors turned into a she-wolf. The police leave. The other into a tigress. He can escape with a quick jump. It would be good to escape abroad. ready to sink their teeth into lion's throat, for ours to get confidently into the eyes of what corner of the country he rang out in her running head. Is useless. A wooden wall the criminal will be caught, and the prince. And then it is up to the vigilante, a roar, to shoot finally the guy or drag him into the city. Lowered the wall. Vigilantes were dead. Like beasts. The school bus arrived in the small village of Ravino Espanol revived the dream. The village was located green at the blood allows them to read. The graduates had come a long way. They read not only now they had to climb to the top, but also those of their adulthood exam. It is impossible to escape. The criminal lived like an ordinary person. The man answered. He came to work, wrinkling his forehead. At home or with friends. It was time to name the somewhere top 5. In a bar or Jean club. Suro 1734. Every other Luke day. 1734. Or maybe every Sandra day. Elino 1934. The lynchers went hunting. 1634. And the city was drowned in blood. They killed everyone they could find. The inhabitants of Lando de la Esperanto did not have surnames as such. They were granted strong population. The siren freed Raymond's mind from unnecessary thoughts. According to a few simple criteria, it had citizens born in the country had to read the Bible. 7 years ago, the 20-year-old prince became a Christian priest, the son of a demigod king and the goddess of wisdom. Sandra was not like his brother Dominic, who somehow died a couple of hundred years ago, denied his divine origin. The world Lion was one of the king's 3 children who lived in according to the statistical bureau. The eldest daughter, there are between 30 and 70 million of French reservation. According to the rules of word formation, the youngest was Mark. The son of the prefixes end in the letter O. During his 10,000 years of reign, King William fathered many children, the citizens' both from goddesses 30 from earthly women and province number. The king. In this case, did not grant his children immortality. If several citizens, the purebred representatives of the royal family had blood with a bright turquoise origins and ages, this hue can be seen at the letters of the alphabet. Royal in those exceptional cases, when the letters of the alphabet ran out, the citizen to control the elements of fire. It could look like air this. And earth. Jean Suro 1730 telepathy for telekinesis. Suro 17 the ability to transform into any animal. Was the temple in of the addition prophet, to turquoise, the son of heaven, there is another type of royal the god blood, of the past green and the future. Green blood, the guys hesitantly entered. For some time, they walked in a positive mood. Cruelty, but the deeper they went inside to read other people's thoughts, the situation became. The children of the temple turned out to be larger inside than outside. The children it was like a labyrinth. Elements carried white blood. All 5 were blood gave the ability to the mood worsened. Sandra walked along the dark corridors, not making out the road. Suddenly, she saw some light. It was a hedgehog, glowing dark blue. Sandra came closer. The hedgehog ran away and stopped. Sandra made a second attempt. The result was the same. The only correct decision, in Sandra's opinion, was to follow the hedgehog. She lost count of how many corridors were behind her. But what happened next threw her off track. Sandra found herself in another world. In the world of hedgehogs. She lived in the house of a hedgehog named Brian. His wife gave Sandra tea. In exchange, the girl looked after the children. The hedgehogs were busy hedgehogs. Brian worked in a large company, held the modest position of a civil engineer. His wife was a general practitioner. Sandra finally found what she was looking for. She hesitantly opened the golden door. It took a lot of time to find it with the hedgehog. The room seemed empty. The fireplace was burning out alone. A friendly, smiling old man hospitably invited her to sit down. It was the prophet. "What is your name?" the old man began. "Sandra. Did your mum and dad name you that?" "No, I did it myself. This name reminds me of a flawless emerald, which is so beautiful. When my friend the moon smiles," the old man finished. "How do you know?" Sandra asked awkwardly. "I am the son of heaven and earth." The prophet put his hand on the girl's head. Sandra remembered everything. She remembered her native Argentina, her parents, her little brother who died shortly before she appeared in the boat. Sandra remembered her real name, Cristina Rodriguez. "Find him. Find your brother, Cristina." But he died. "He died in your previous world, but not in this one." The prophet snapped his fingers. Sandra stood in front of the examiner. He dictated to his assistant. "Sandra Elino 1734. No turquoise or green blood detected. Time spares no one. The year flew by quickly, like a mouse in a night apartment that smelled cheese. Sandra studied at the French department of the Prince Dominique Academy in Urbo de la Sago. One of the teachers was amazed by the student's talent. He decided to send Sandra on an internship to the French reservation to Marseille. The teacher was a red-bearded Jew, Alexo Cruco. Sandra worked for a large French-language newspaper. The girl rented an apartment from an old Frenchman, Jean-Paul. He was the owner of 5 beastmen slaves, a bear and 4 lionesses. Unlike their wild brothers and sisters, the beastmen who lived in captivity could transform into only one animal form. Like the wild ones, they did not wear any clothes. Their bodies were covered with tattoos. Enslaved by the Prophet, enduring the war with the northern tribe, they had no rights in society. Slaves were completely subordinate to their master. A collar, a leash, and often a muzzle made them look like pets. Oddly enough, in Jean-Paul's house, Sandra found her brother. His name was Urso Espanol, Urso Bear. He was a beastman slave. But how could he be her brother? After all, her brother died in early childhood. The answer is simple. According to Urso, the Prophet sometimes talked to him in his visions. Mother Nature is an extremely complex, incomprehensible organism. There are many worlds, many dimensions. They often take on various, sometimes grotesque forms. The same person exists in parallel in many, if not all, worlds. Each person has clones or doubles in other worlds. Even in your own world, there are at least 8 people who are exactly like you. As a rule, only one of them achieves true success. In the event of the death of one, another takes his place. This concerned the limits of one world. Clones in other worlds could be similar to each other, or they could be opposites. They could differ in age, social status, and even gender. Thus, Urso is the embodiment of her little brother. Sandra, I can't sleep. Bring me a sleeping pill. Jean-Paul's voice was heard. The girl entered the room. She gave a pill and held out a glass of water to the shaking claw of the old man. Jean-Paul swallowed the sleeping pill. Sandra turned to the side, but felt that the old man's hand squeezed her hand tightly. What are you doing? Sing me a lullaby, darling. Jean-Paul pulled the girl towards himself. Sandra found herself in the old pervert's bed. The old man's claw clamped her mouth tightly. The girl felt kisses on her neck. Meanwhile, the other hand was between her legs. The old man was stronger than he seemed. Sandra could not move. A powerful blow threw Jean-Paul back. The blow was strong. The old man hit the wall. A pool of blood formed under his head. The frightened girl saw an enraged bear standing on his hind legs. Urso turned into a man. You killed him. We must run, too late. And another blow. This time the glass in the windows broke. The lynchers rode in on motorcycles through the windows. Sandra recognized one of them. He found the girl on the first day. Raymond recognized her too. Death or new lynch? Raymond exclaimed angrily. New lynch, the girl said uncertainly. Slaves have no place in New Lynch. The African pointed a shotgun at Urso. The lioness, sneaking up from behind, broke the neck of one vigilante. The other, without losing his composure, cut off the lioness's head. The resistance was almost broken when Sandra and Urso, who had killed 4, remained alive. 8 vigilantes surrounded them. The bleeding bear held his broken paw aloft. Stop! A confident young voice was heard. All those present looked at the door. A tall, richly dressed young man stood in front of them. The vigilantes pointed their weapons at the stranger. An invisible shock wave scattered the vigilantes in different directions. Sandra recognized the young man. It was Prince Mark. The vigilantes knelt down. Sandra followed their example. Urso's lifeless body lay nearby. Had she really found her brother and lost him again? Bitter tears rolled down her face. Meanwhile, Mark read the thoughts of those present. I came to stop injustice. I know he was your brother. He protected you, but he killed. He is guilty. I cannot give him back his life, but I can take another, said Mark. Your brother died by his hand. Mark pointed at Raymond. Kill him. The order was heard in the heads of the lynch mobs. Come with me. The prince extended his hand to Sandra. They left the ruins of the house, while the lynch mobs carried out the sentence. Amikina and her husband walked hesitantly into the morgue of Marseille. She identified the body. It was her brother, Mark Fenestro. Grief-stricken, Sandra came to Zamenhof. Despite the loss of her brother, in other respects, she felt as if she were in a fairy tale. Sandra was experiencing in reality what millions of little girls dream of, and even having grown up into beauties, they continue to dream. Who among them did not dream of a wedding and a handsome prince on a white horse? Here he is, the prince. They entered the king's residence. The guards and random onlookers knelt down, greeting the prince. Wilhelm, as befits a respectable king, sat on the throne. A golden crown adorned his head. Have you really decided to get married? The king looked at Sandra. Mark was silent. My son Mark has been killed. Who are you? Wilhelm shouted. The army of lynch mobs approached the prince and the girl. Mark's facial features changed. He changed his appearance. Lion stood before them. Lion, what does this mean? Did you kill your brother? Do you want to seize the throne? The shot ran out unexpectedly. The dead royal body slowly rolled down. Sandra looked around. The lynch mobs turned into statues. How could you kill your father and brother? Sandra screamed hysterically. He is not my father. I am his father. Lion changed his image again. Sandra saw green eyes, beautiful green eyes. Long time no see, Christina, said the prophet. What does this mean? The girl said, barely standing on her feet. She felt like she was going crazy. I'll show you. The prophet placed his hand on Sandra's head. The girl saw the past. She saw the spouses. The prophet was not young, but not old either. His wife was babysitting little Wilhelm. He was not the only child. There was also a daughter, Sandra. The girl loved to walk in the forest, without her parents' knowledge. One day, Sandra was torn to pieces by a beastman. This was the beginning of the war. The grief-stricken father went to pacify his dim-witted children of the forest. The prophet killed most of them, and gave the rest to serve people. Centuries later, some of the slaves rebelled. They managed to revive their tribe. So, I am a clone. A reflection of that, Sandra, Christina said quietly, barely holding back her tears. It doesn't matter. I brought you to this world for consolation. Do you think your world is more real than mine? They are both unreal. Everything is unreal. Nothing is the real reality. The prophet waved his hand. Everything around collapsed. They stood in a white space. Fred casually washed down his sandwich with freshly brewed coffee. Adjusting his glasses, he took up reading again. On page 17 the following was written. Solipsism is a philosophical school of thought that states that only consciousness exists. Everything around us is the result of the synthesis of synergetics. Everything we see, hear, feel, sense with our skin. Thus, matter does not exist. We cannot prove our existence, as well as disprove it. Below was the following. The brain in a Flask thought experiment states that maybe we never existed or we died long ago. Scientists or aliens took a still-living brain from a dead body. They placed the brain in a flask with a nutrient solution that maintains the brain's life support. Many wires connect the brain and the computer. The computer creates electrical impulses that imitate synergetics, thereby allowing it to project reality. Fred put the book down, turned on the light. There were thousands of flasks in the lab, each containing a brain. Fred walked up to one, almost tripping over the wires. He brushed off the dust and crossed out the words Sandra Ilino 1934. And just above that was the already crossed out words Christina Rodriguez.